We had went 6 years without growing a deer over 155 in a fence. And it was a Georgia fence, no manipulation. It's just what was there when the fence was put up. And the landowner was paying Grant Woods to do the assessments in the fence for what needed to be killed or shot population-wise. And Grant, I called Grant and was just disgruntled about the size of the deer we were growing. And Grant was being paid to test the tick and parasite control in antler extreme. And he taught, it's more vitamins and minerals than any feed in the country. Soybean meal-based protein numbers. Just the guy went out of the box to make a great deer feed that formulated it. And I ordered 2 tons of it. It was made in Missouri and had 2 tons shipped from Missouri to Perry, Georgia. And my wife, who's back there somewhere, is as good a Christian woman as you ever met. And if I say a small cuss word, it's a problem. And she's also an accountant. And she seen the bill. And it was $1,000 a ton. This was 7 years ago to get it from Missouri to Perry. And she walked into the den with that bill. And she goes, I'm going to say a cuss word here. She said, "You and them damn deer?" She said, "You have lost your mind. We're not doing this." And our deer were eating a ton of wheat. So it was a $4,000 a month deer feed bill for four of us that was leasing it. And I tried to get the guy to share formulation with a meal close to me because freight was killing me. And he goes, "Danny, I paid 2 nutritionists. I paid Grant Woods. I'm not giving the formulation to a mill in South Georgia." And we talked for a couple of weeks. This was 1st of January when we started feeding it in that fence. Deer hadn't even shed their antlers yet for that year. And I drove up to the National Wild Turkey Federation show in Nashville, met with him. Holly was with me. Wound up buying an exclusive licensing right to produce it and sell it in the Southeast. And on the way home, she's going, "You've lost your mind." She said, I run a heavy equipment business. I'm a retired public works director. I run our family farm. And she goes, you need something else too, like you need a hole in your head. I said, "You don't understand. I'll stand on the side of the road and talk to somebody about growing a big deer for 2 hours just because I love it." And the best part of this whole deal, we went to feeding it, bought an exclusive ricing right. At that time, I said, if I can sell enough deer feed like a drug addict to cover my expenses of my feed, I'm going to be good with it. And that year in that fence, and Kyle's part of it, John too, I grew and shot a 182 and 5/8. And this is 6 years without a 155. We shot a 182 and 5/8, a 174, a 164. My wife shot a 160-inch 8-point. I mean, nothing changed neither in a fence but the deer feed. Food plots are all the same. The agriculture was the same. And we started feeding this feed on our farm and my neighbor's place, about 1,100 acres free range, that same year. And in the last 3 seasons, we've killed number 3, 4, and 7 all-time Peach County. In 2020, GON will have 4 guys holding a buck a year on the cover. And in 2020, 3 of them were antler extreme customers. And it has just went crazy. It's went beyond we've overwhelmed our meal. We had to take on a second meal to make feed. We feed the University of Auburn's Deer Lab. We feed the Bone Factory that houses the biggest deer per age class in the world. And they buy tractor trailer load at a time we ship to Ohio. It has just went that crazy for us because of our 3-year plus customers are rewriting county records. They're shooting top 10 county bucks as long as you can. The problem a lot of them have, and I tell a lot of my customers this, when you start growing 130, 40-inch 3-year-olds, you got to be able to let that deer walk by. I mean, to get to consistently shoot 150s and better, which is great deer in the South, you've got to pass that buck. And we would love to have y'all as customers. We're not the cheapest deer feed in the world for sure. Let me get it. I'm going to talk just a second about a tag. And I'm not a nutritionist or a biologist, but I have learned a bunch of info and on deer feed in the last 7 years. Our crude protein numbers is 19%. It's without a doubt proven fact that a deer can digest about 18. Anything over 18 is, once it gets 19, 20, 21, 22, it turns into ammonia in the stomach, has to be redigested. Don't let somebody sell you feed that's 24, 26, 28, 32% protein because the protein numbers are great. They can't do nothing with it. Another thing I've learned that's very important if you're going to look at a tag, our fat is 5%, probably the highest in the country. Our fiber is 8%, probably one of the lowest numbers in the country. In a deer feed, everything, I have a biologist on staff that consults for me. Just about everything a deer bites in the woods is full of fiber. Fiber in a deer feed, higher numbers generally mean filler. If your deer feed tag has 14, 15, 16% fiber, it's generally a pretty good bit of filler in it. And you want to keep a low fiber number, especially in a free-ranging deer feed. I didn't know this at the time. On the ingredient section of your tag, ingredients in the state of Georgia have to be listed by amount in bag. The first ingredient is going to be the most of what's in that bag, and the next ingredient's the next most. Where our first and I'll tell you what, our first ingredient is grain products and it's ground corn. The next ingredient is plant protein products and soybean meal, and they're within 25 pounds of each other, making up a big part of it. If the first ingredient in your deer feed is processed grain byproducts, you want to steer clear of it. Because the main thing in that bag is a byproduct. And I never 6, 7 years ago, I didn't know that. And so here's something that's super important to me. Our vitamin A is 40,000 IUs a pound. There ain't nobody in the country within a tenth of that. I mean, most are. I would say we're 4 times any tag I've read in the country. 10,000 IUs a pound, and they've learned that. Auburn's biologist was talking to me about this the other day. Vitamin A is hugely important in a deer for processing protein, and as well as digestive tract issues. And so, I just don't think there's a tag in the country that compares with this. And I'm not, like I said, a nutritionist or a biologist. I'm just a stinking big deer growing nut like y'all. I appreciate it.